A series of animal carcasses appear overnight in a remote village in the mountains, and Inugami, a detective specializing in the occult, is called to investigate these events. Talk to you guys. Not today. Summarizing anime, we will follow the kimono of Rena, so come on. We started with AI Tar or talking to friends and debauching the street, Tabo, who lived dirty and did not go to school. Then we see the Inugami detective on the road with a flat tire on his car until Kuiko, get it, Sentaro, shows up to give him a ride, telling him that the reason he called him was the bodies of animals that appeared out of nowhere. And he asks her to keep the investigation a secret. At the inn, the detective in sight of the Oda, well, taking care of the field, alone at night, while relaxing in a hot spring, and Tara offers to wash his back. Inugami takes the opportunity to ask about the boy he saw earlier. The young man tells him that because he was born with a very bad smell, no one would go near him, in addition to the fact that his parents had disappeared. Then the detective goes to Kusaka asking her to stop serving him and to send the other boy instead. The next morning, he takes the coffee to go in the gami, which after talking a little. I ask if the boy had seen anything strange, then, Otavio reveals that he knew about the dead animals, because he was the one who got rid of the bodies, and also says that the attacks used to be new moon nights. Seeing that there were 5 days left for such an event, the detective spends his time helping the board in his daily tasks, until one day. Inugami comments on the necklace that the boy carried being a stone of life and states that he had not been abandoned as he thought. Asking if the young man would like to meet his parents on the night of the new moon, of the notary is confronted by Yataro, who was jealous of the attention his cousin was receiving. And for that, rip off his necklace, causing the boy to turn into a monster. But fortunately, he returns to normal as soon as he retrieves the artifact. After that, Inugami while adopting the deranged man. Then, the man tells him that he wasn't human either and reveals his tale, explaining what a thud don OK was and that the boy was a defendant. Son of a kimono with a human, adding that his life stone allowed him to stay in human form, thus containing his urges. At this point, the Dorota bomb remembers that Tara occurred to the forest in fear, and so they go after him, finding him surrounded by dogs. Transformed, which is soon finished off by the duo cutting into its head without delay, a demonic moose attacks and last taboo. He defeats it with his bare hands, which leaves Inugami impressed. Moments later, the man reveals that he was actually hired to finish him off, and we discover that the young man's real name ends up on him. Then, the detective shoots him in the head. Then Inugami pretends that he had finished the job and leaves, taking the boy, who soon regenerates, and the man explains that this happened because of his half that I live. He then takes him to his office. Tokyo. He gives a perfume to hide his strong smell of kimono. There, the boy meets Sheik and Akira. Then Inugami explains that they secretly took care of special houses that involved a kimono that came off the line, and then Hut praises Akira. However, he is offended because she was actually a boy. The next day, the group leaves for a job that consists of eliminating an infestation of insects that have attacked a family. Inugami explains that something was attracting the creatures, and Sheik tries to use his web-making powers Spider-Man style and try to learn the creatures, but it's no use. It's over, isn't it? So he volunteers, leaving the boys fearful. However, Inugami agrees. As soon as he enters, the insects cover his body, but he did not feel pain, since he was half kimono and therefore had no blood for the animals to feed on, inject their paralyzing toxin. In this way, he takes the object and points it at the light, making the insects disappear. Shortly afterwards, we discover that the cause of the insect invasion was feelings of guilt caused by a shoe that a little child had stolen for his mother. Sahir Banner decides to be part of the kimono office. He is there and asks Inugami to help him find his parents, and later, we see the detective talking on the phone about the boy with Inari, a kimono with a great influence within the police. The next day, Inugami sends the boys to the police station, and there the young people have their ticket embargoed by a policeman. However, Inari's assistant appears and says that the woman was waiting for Barnett Nut and that the others were supposed to stay there inside the room, and Nose shows interest in the Stone of Life and explains that with that, the kimonos would no longer need to feed on the energies of humans to survive, and takes it for himself, while with cuts the boy's head, putting it in a suitcase, and Inari Amanda finish the other boys outside, when it appears transfigured in Ca Baynet. However, she loses control when Sheik, at the end of his master, and reveals his real form, attacking and setting fire to everything. Chick uses her silk to form a protection and takes the suitcase from the hand of ********, and when opening finds the head of Baby Head getting scared. The boys run to another hiding place, and there the half-breed asks him to throw it against ******, so he could defeat it. So it is done, and Cabaret bites the girl, who falls fainted, and everything around returns to normal without any flames, revealing that this was just an illusion. Soon, Cabanel regenerates his body, and the 3 young people find themselves in Lugan Mio's, Waiting outside, and we discover that the stone that Maria had taken was fake and that it is real. Continued with the boy. At the same time that the woman discovers this, the detective calls her and scolds her for her betrayal, leaving her extremely furious. Later, as they get close to the office, when she reappears, wanting to recover Cabin's head, however, she faints due to the injury, and the detective takes her inside and feeds her. Then, a client called Gold in the appears and asks for help with a love problem. Cabin becomes interested in the topic and asks to take care of the case when seeing a rat on the floor and urinated. Captures it with his mouth, and the Inugami realizes that the man was suffering from feline possession caused by a nekomata, a kimono that turns into an attractive person to seduce its victims. The next day, the children go to the woman's work because I was in love. And when they see a two-tailed cat, they go after it to abacus there, wounding it turns into a beautiful young woman and reveals other men of whom it had turned into a cat when it takes the woman by surprise and forces her to listen to the declaration of love of Euro, in which he says he does not mind living as a cat for the girl. And that leaves her touched back to the office Inugami, Ludibria as turning an orange on his head. Tip Barnett. To dismiss her, a time passes and Cabinero is given the job of investigating some deaths from supernatural causes in a sewer. Akira is also assigned and even in. Sent with local accepts the job? Already in the mission here in the account, that because he was born in a village in the snow mountains, was a kimono able to control the ice, adding that they join Inugami to find his twin brother, who had been lost when fleeing the village. Suddenly, they are both attacked by a toad man, but it's in that Inugami's messenger shows up with a message that the toads were the cause of the problem. So, they use some blood that came along with the letter to lure the creatures away, while C.A. Barney is in the one where they fight the monsters. The wanted one cringes in fear, until he realizes that his friend was in danger and shows his ability, finishing all the demons at once. A few days later, Cabana is cleaning the place when he is pulled into a mysterious door where we meet the vampire Mihai, who lived there hidden, being an expert in office technology, since Inugami was a denial in everything. Related to this, the man begins to take advantage. Hint Barnett displeasing everyone. Then Damn Me challenges for an arm wrestling, and if we won, he would release the boy. However, everyone loses. Finishing then goes out to buy dinner, but stops in a square thinking about how to become stronger until With reveals herself falling from a tree and we see her sad to have been replaced by Inari. The boy asks her to fight with him, however, as she is easily defeated and begins to cry for it, the half-breed tries to comfort her in the office. Mihai, leaving the room for the first time, and reveals that Cabaret had broken his wrist and therefore could not play. So he decided to help with the outside services, leaving Inugami worried, since the vampire was inconsequential. In the cabaret park, he invites Calm to live with them. However, the young woman refuses. So the boy leaves, promising to return back to the office. Deceived and trapped Inugami in his room, sending the boys in a high-danger mission, where they would have to investigate a factory known for employees taking their own lives until it suddenly stopped and they needed to find out why. Before they went, we see how he decided to cover his body with his web, and with that he managed the feat of becoming invisible, because his threads mimicked the things around. Sheik then breaks into the place and discovers that the employees were acting strangely until one of them decides to run away, but is found by the manager. He is taken to a room where another woman turns into a kimono, mosquitoes, and sucks his brain, making him return to work as a Sheik zombie. He tries to get out of there, but Mihai, to add to the excitement, catches the women's attention with a remote control cart. So, one of them finds the toy and puts it away, and then uses her extrasensory mosquito skills and finds Sheik nonetheless. The vampire is electrocuted with the cart and soon realizes he hadn't done a good thing, as he says that he was paralyzed because of a past trauma where he felt very afraid of scary things. Soon, he finally comes to his senses. After a taunt from Mihai, he uses his camouflage and a few other things to confuse the kimono, learning in a trap. At the same time that the other two boys appear carrying their sister, soon the oldest of the three flies appears, sucks the sister's brains, getting even stronger and knocking Akira Ishii down, leaving only Kabaye. Then, receiving advice from Mihai on how to use his kimono power, he achieves great power without losing mental control and rips the creature's arms off once the threat is neutralized. The boy returns to normal and Inari's new assistant, Nub Marua, appears destroying the remains of the three villains so the humans will find them, and warns Cabaret that his master has not given up on him. A few days later, the group embarks on a journey to find out more about the parents of Sheik. Once there, the boys wander around town until Cabaret finds a book about a local legend, in which he spoke of a boy who came home, found a spider, and even though he did not have much, he decided to feed it. In the next day, when he woke up, his poor hovel was full of golden web that the young man sold and became rich. After that, we see a little girl staring. I checked until Inugami arises account, declared the uncle of the young girl. Then they all go to the forest, where the man tells them that the boy's father had died while eating. His mother was pregnant and she had died of an illness. How chic, he was only 5 years old at night, while the young people were bathing. Sailor Club arrives and invites them to explore the forest to try to raise the morale of the group again. Once there, Sheik begins to remember a path he took to his mother's work and decides to follow it, arriving at a cabin at the same time that he remembers seeing the woman going through horrible experiments, which is why he was traumatized later. Inugami talked to Tamaru in the forest, and with a little pressure, the man revealed that he convinced the summit to participate in experiments with the maternal base of several creatures until a kimono was born with the mutation of producing golden silk. He is able to restore human cells that would. It's taking time to become known as the man who ended disease. Inugami then reveals that Sheik heard everything on his cell phone, and soon the boy emerges from the darkness, trapping his uncle in a tree to finish him off. At that moment, here he appears being attacked by a kimono. However, when saving him, Inugami ends up having his arm contaminated by a poison and ends up separating from the others quickly. The rest of the group is surrounded by several kimonos, which were brothers of Sheik. The results of the experiments that are taking a long time, he realizes soon. The creatures begin to speak with a voice of eating, and this causes the boy to collapse completely terrified. Back, Inugami, the mysterious young woman appears, calms the kimonos and takes the pair to a fountain where the man manages to cure the poison in his arm. Meanwhile, Sheik continued without action, and seeing that, ends up in this transform and begins to fight against all the kimonos, and with the help of Nube, Maru, they defeat everyone, including one that was giant. After that, Kabane, shoot. It took time for Sheik to finish him, however, the boy said he realized that it would not bring his family back and decided not to do it. Suddenly there, a mysterious girl arrives and questions, where is it? It took time, hid the cocoon she had made, but the man refused to say. Then Inugami, that now had a debt with the girl, calls me and with the data collected from the investigation, there concludes that he was at the source and that was why she had healing powers. The girl then runs there, but Sheik catches up and dives into the water instead, finding her mother still alive below. At that moment, it is revealed that Haya was to have the fold. Then, Inugami takes everyone to a place in Tokyo that could help the woman, leaving his lingered behind, because Tay that concluded that not having a legacy was worse than death for the man. However, Nub Marori appears and finalizes it in the city. They arrive at a clinic where Ohana says that the problem that made it impossible for her to wake up is psychological and that she has prepared a treatment for her. Later, we see Aya afraid that her brother hates her. However, the boy says that if it wasn't for her enduring the abuse of being in Marui, healing his mother wouldn't be alive. And suddenly, Kami wakes up, being happy to see her children. A week passes and we see that Sheik decided to spend time with his family, and in this way, Inugami delivers the next service to want to finish, right? However, the friend appears next to Haig, who is in love with the half-breed and asks him out soon, as he appears wanting to fight and is jealous of the scene, which leaves the other boys in shock. Inugami then explains that the job would be to confront an invisible kimono that was attacking women and ripping off part of theirs costs, and as the other boys were still in shock, Cabaret goes with the girls to the mission. Already at the location, the fox girl is saddened by the attention the boy was giving Stingray and stays behind, where she begins to hear a voice saying, "I help her." Then, an unseen force pulls Haig's hair and Huts and punches her to save her. Then, a kimono named Katerina Kai appears and tells her that she ripped the parts off the faces of beautiful young women with the intention of winning over a boy who worked at a nearby store. Suddenly, Calm ends up losing control. I don't quite understand her feelings and attacks the area. However, Kabaninya defends, and with that the girl runs away crying. Back at the office, we find that the task had been solved to find a human-looking body to Akatara Z. She promises not to attack anyone else at night. Cabaret searches with and consoles her for what happened, while Inugami accompanies Kami to the forest, where she secretly erects an altar in honor of her other deceased children. Later, we see Akira's twin brother, who in his thoughts, he remembered when they were born and all their needs would be taken care of by the women of the village. This was to keep an eye on them, as the birth of a male was a rare event, occurring once every 100 years. Back in Akira, we see that he was involved in a series of small disasters, which ended up annoying his classmates, causing the boy to run away because he felt useless. By coincidence, he ends up meeting his lost brother and they both walk away from civilization, where, following Akira's EOE wishes, he built a huge castle with his ice powers for them to spend the night. Impressed, she wanted to try to take a picture, but her brother destroys her cell phone. He then goes out to get food, locking him in the place. In the office, Kaba niche that they miss it in their daily tasks and decide to go after it at the same time that Inugami sees news about the ice castle. Arriving there, they find several curious people, until Oi appears and when he was about to attack them, he receives a shot from Inugami, making the crowd run. At that time, he reveals in his chest a similar stone, the hint, Barnett? And the detective explains that that was a stone Nola, whose interior contained the power of a kimono, leaving the most powerful user able to make it destroy and rebuild in Earth. A while later, EOE goes to the Kira, calling him to see the rest of the castle and as soon as the boy from those stairs finds it ends, fancy? Hello Gami frozen. The boy thinks his friends were dead and starts to feel sick because of that, EOEC to get some tea to help him. At this moment, his teddy bear, which Mihai had modified by installing an advanced AI, says that he still feels their vital signs shortly after. And the remembers when he was younger and was appointed village chief, going through various traumas, while Akira kept his innocence intact. Back, Akira bears advice to use salt to thaw out his friends. So when his brother returns, he convinces her AI to get Soro. Cabaret manages to free himself and, after recovering, he said he had to find a way to defeat Inhai, but Akira, intent on preventing a fight from happening, pretends that everything was just a plan of his and as soon as his brother returns here, he leaves with him willingly, leaving his friends behind. Sabine remains for a moment without understanding, but soon at the behest of the bear he throws the salt that IE had brought and positioned the doll to warm them. At this time, Inari appears asking for the boy's help to get the null stone and, to convince him, says that the artifact could be interconnected with his parents. Then, EOE has another flashback of when the ball won with the villagers. Akira's departure from there and they pretend, he will accept, however, he discovers that the women intended to finish his brother and, in anger, he ran away from them to the mount and removed the stone that guarded the whole place. Thus ending the life of Vila, back in the forest Nub Maruim against the brothers. Then EOE, traps here in a cage and a fight breaks out in the Ob. Maru in his kit's form Ne tries to create several clones to get close to his opponent and get the null stone. However, when he touches it, his arm is seriously injured. Then he suffers a counterattack, only not being hit, because Cabaret appears on the spot. Then Cabanel unites his regeneration with Nube Merit's fire and attacks Yo-Yo, forcing him to use the full power of the null stone and create an ice armor. I was born, so they both fight fiercely, until it bounces. Barnett asks the Mobi Maru to increase the power of his flames, and with that, he claims to make armor. However, the fire begins to overcome his regeneration, and in the last blow, Akira appears preventing him from finishing off his brother. Realizing that the stone was sucking all the life out of Hai here as tries to take it away and ends up getting his brother's memories at this point. He ends up in that book of flames and they manage to regenerate. So he helps here, Using his life stone, which he merges with Nullify, would show up. And picks up the artifact, however Inugami appear unfrozen and the phase return in the hospital. I end up asking OE about the stones, however, Inugami interferes and tells about a war between the kimonos and the humans that devastated the earth more than 1,000 years. Therefore, the greatest kimonos of the time used all their powers to pay that of the memory of men and created such stones that were passed on to their descendants. In order to maintain the balance of power in the Bai Maru goes to Hao and passes the mission to conquer Cabanero and make him deliver the now called stone kimono of free will. The next morning, Akira announces that he is going on vacation with his brother, while Inugami Cab prepare to travel to the detective's homeland, where an old friend had a stone similar to theirs, which could help them find out more about their parents. However, before they leave with that, she offers to go with them at the behest of Inari and even knowing that, Inugami accepts her to go. Talk. Guys, which kimonos? Is it your favorite? Tell me in the comments and, guys, I have a new project, yes, another channel. This time we are strolling through the lands of games. If you enjoyed this video, you will surely like the summarizing games, where we will talk about several games telling their stories in a very dynamic and immersive way for you. So run there and take the opportunity to see this video here or take another look at these suggestions here from the summary. Anime. Thank you very much for watching and see you next time.